Got it figured out. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Hey there, stranger.
How are you?
Good to see you. Now that's fine.
Did you bring? You got on that.
No.
All right. Good.
No.
Yeah, I'm ready to see you.
I'm good, you already done?
I started. Hey, good, how are you doing? How are you? Can I sit over here? No, I'm right here. I'll sit right over there. Thank you. Yeah, I might do that. This guy's pretty good. He's like, run crew reach. That's my shorthand. Somebody's word, it carries so much from their misrepresentation. You'll leave.
And every time I may have killed my hydrangea. No?
Everything you Carlton?
The next 3 days, you know, they are.
Active weather and no, and weather.
All right, let's welcome everybody to the Madison County Board of Commissioners special call meeting. Tonight is a presentation from Tax Commissioner Lamar Dalton, Chief Appraiser Robin Baker, regarding House Bill 581. And I really would hope that you two do this because you know how long-winded I get. We are going to be discussing House Bill 581. I know we have a sign-in sheet, but is all cities represented here? I think so. I think I see somebody from every one of them, so that's good. This is, I'm going to start off with these guys, but just for the record, we attended Shane Higgs from Hart County, who's a Madison County resident, is here. Also Chief Appraiser over there, and Gary Cavalier, Deputy Appraiser here from Madison County, is in attendance. We attended Monday a meeting down in Macon, which was hosted by the Department of Revenue. Unfortunately, nobody left there real warm and fuzzy, just to be honest, because we didn't get any new information. It's still your best guess. Is that what y'all's takeaway was, I believe? Unfortunately, it was sent an email to me just a minute ago, was unfortunately us rural counties in Georgia are faced with this nightmare. And that's the way the email was phrased from Walker Norman down in Lincoln County. Yesterday, myself, Lamar, and Robin attended that meeting in Lincoln County, which represented 7 counties, all rural counties. And it's pretty well a split decision. We went in there with I think we were the only ones in the room even talking the topic of potentially opting out. But by the time we left, there was pretty well a consensus that the majority had flipped the other way to opting out instead of in. But I'll let these guys give you a little bit of the breakdown as to how this will affect you. And at any point in time, Shane, feel free, based off of your background with Hart County, and Gary Cavalier, please feel free to chime in. One of the things we were made aware of before I turn it over is Hall County has opted out. It's already in the newspaper. Hart County, Marshall sent me the clipping today of the Hartwell Sun opting out. Franklin County also opting out. Those we know for a fact that's happening. Hart County opting out. Huh? Stevens is opting out. I figured they would. I just hadn't. I wasn't aware of that yet.
Can you be clear on if it's the local education, or is the Board of Education office for each one of the counties, or the local government, or
These are
both?
local governments I'm speaking of.
And you said Clark County is opting out?
Yeah, we talked to the Chief Appraiser Monday.
Wow.
He said their board is opting out.
So,
Right.
quit.
The Board of Assessors is
No.
making a,
The Board of Commissioners.
okay.
So,
It's almost a given. Every Board of Education in the state's gonna opt out just simply by the 20 mil deal right there. So that's how we're gonna talk about it, is there will be Board of Commissioners, county authorities, cities, stuff like that.
So, in yesterday's conversation, not in that meeting, but with what we now come to realize, about 92% as of today of school boards are opting out. And obviously they have a little bit different reason than we have, and it's because they have a 20 mil cap. The majority of the state's sitting somewhere around 16, 17 mils, and they will hit their cap within the first 2 to 3 years, if not actually the second year. And then they have no other way to levy any more tax after that. So that's why there's a consensus amongst superintendents across the state. So, go ahead.
I did want to say, I talked to the chief in Franklin County, and he did say Royston is opting out too, which means since we share the city with them, the floss would be out.
Yeah,
Even if all of us decided to opt in, we would give them a floss because Royston's opting out.
and to elaborate a little bit on what Mr. Capilouris talked about, we have a piece of property that's in the city limits of Royston. If we chose to opt in, if the city of Royston opts out because of that one parcel, we are disqualified from the floss.
I think it's like
three
there's
parcels.
a couple.
Oh, yeah, that's right, there's 4 parcels over there, sorry. But anyway, the majority would guarantee us we won't have an opportunity for the splosh. Now, while we're on the splosh topic and the floss topic, our renewal for splosh will hit at the exact same time as the floss would. So you're gambling the potential of obviously the floss not passing, but potentially the splosh not passing with it.
Well, you're putting 2 on the referendum. You're
At the
putting
same
2
time.
penny tax on the referendum at the same time.
So that could be misinterpreted by the voters. Speaking to Bill Toomey today at ACCG, this past November election, there was 6 counties in Georgia that's had splashed. It was up for renewal. And surprisingly, 5 of the 6 failed to renew their splosh. That would be detrimental. They were shocked that counties that's had splosh for years lost it. So what he's saying is the trend to think that sales tax is better than property tax may have shifted. So, go ahead and give us a breakdown.
Well, it's a trend on both of them. One or the other would have been all right when you've done
Yes.
sales tax. From a tax commissioner standpoint, regardless if you opt in or opt out, we have to do the estimation of rollback. It's gonna push us, everybody, up on their budget meetings, your mill rates, everything like that, and get the PT 32 filled out. You're gonna probably throw about a month ahead on everything. Now, the way it was advised to us Monday by the Department of Revenue, the estimation rollback seems scary to you, but it's just simple math. You just plug your numbers in on PT 32 and do it. But unless you pad that estimated rollback, you'll have to post a notice on the bills saying that the rollback did not meet the estimation. This is an excessive, increased tax bill over the estimation. So they advised us to, on every one of the rollbacks, to add a couple of mils or half a mil, whatever you needed to push it above the inflationary. So it really doesn't change there. Now, one thing it will change for the office person, and you're gonna see more about that when they get to showing you what the numbers do. The first couple of years, if you opt in, aren't what I would say is vicious, but it compounds every year. So you finally looking at a point to where, and like this year, with the way the budget's set this year, basically a red budget, that limits what I can do as far as payment plans and helping people out. Because my job is to collect 100% of the digest. And I've been fortunate enough to have a board that supported me on helping folks as much as I could. But you're going to see that have to go away. And I mean, it's my job to do that, and I'll do it. By the time you get 3 or 4 years into this, and this goes on forever, it doesn't stop. Now, the floss, if it does pass, is a 5-year deal, and then you have to go through it again.
It only goes to the REAP, it doesn't go to general fund or anything.
Right.
It just goes to.
Just go to
Yeah.
this.
No general fund.
No general fund. So, like I said, other than us tightening up on our budget hearings, first one thing and another, on the front end before you get your digest submitted, there's not a whole lot of change right there as far as tax commissioner is concerned. Now, as Lamar Dalton, not tax commissioner, I don't see any way we don't have a lot of industrial-based, commercial-based, retail-based that a lot of these other counties do, and some of those are opting out. You know, a lot of them people we met with yesterday's in a regional T-Splosh thing. It's like 8 counties, and it's the corridor down to Savannah. You know, I mean, there's a huge amount of flow-through traffic, not people there. Most of our floss money is going to be out of us. riding around in our own county, shopping in our own county. You know, we don't have a tremendous amount of flow through. We do have some. But I just don't see us being able to pace what we're gonna have to replace without being pretty aggressive with the mill rate for probably them third year on, possibly the second year on. And I mean, of all of y'all, I got the easiest job. I just collect it, okay? So a lot of people keep talking about the will of the people, but this bill wasn't explained to the people. They just put the floating homestead on there, and everybody voted for it. But sometimes what you want ain't what you need. And I know that's not a lot of advice, a lot of help, a lot of knowledge, but when you get into the figures that Gary and Robin and Shane's gonna show you, I mean, this will even affect conservation values, because your mill rate's gonna bump up. So, I mean, it ain't just homeowners and rooftops, it's commercial, it's farmers, it's everybody. You know, and just my personal take on that.
Leading off of what Lamar just said, we have 7,000 parcels. It's an automatic in. It's not something you sign up for. It's an automatic opt-in.
Really about 7,200.
About 7,200 out of 17,600 parcels. So what's going to end up happening, just like anything else, when you relieve this bracket, you're going to dump it on the rest of them. So for the other 10,000 parcels, they're going to make up the difference of this exemption. And when we start raising that millage rate, you know, we have CUBA for a reason, for farmers to try to succeed, but now their increases, they're going to take a good chunk of this when that mill rate increases. That mill rate's going to increase across the board. The biggest detriment to raising the millage rate, hey sir, the biggest detriment to raising the millage rate is when you raise the millage rate, it deters business growth. It hurts your industrial growth because you're sending a signal to them. If they're looking at these major corporations they're going to look at the tax brackets that they're falling in. Well, now we're at 9.25, 9.75, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. Don't quote me in the newspaper. I don't remember. But we know that we're probably going to be on the second year. We're probably going to have to bump up a mill or two. On the third year, could be possibly 3 or 4 mills. On the fifth year, it's only going to continuously go until it goes out of sight. That will defeat the whole purpose of this. And just to be honest with everybody in the room, and I think all of us will attest to this, the state did not think this through. Not at all. Lamar was informed probably 18 months ago that this was coming, which is Department of Revenue. And in 18 months, they have yet to come up with a formula to make this work. Now, this is going to go into effect March 1. Well, for 18 months, they ain't figured it out yet. I don't know what's going to make them figure it out later. But what we're doing, and I know it sounds like I'm preaching to opt out, but I'm trying to explain why, is if you're taking your local control of taxation away from your mayors, you're taking it away from your board of commissioners, and you're giving it to the state. You're giving the Department of Revenue the opportunity for them to deem what you can and cannot collect. How has the state ever worked out well in your benefit on tax collection before? I don't know of any. But with that being said, the CPI number they're going to use at this point, they can't give you that number. They're going to set a CPI each year. Fortunately for us, we have a December 31st cutoff, January 1 budget. But if you're a July budget, like some of the other counties, Elbert County, and some of those that was down there yesterday, that means the Department of Revenue has to produce that CPI number by sometime in March just for them to be able to meet the July adoption of their budget, because you have to set your budget prior to the millage rate. That's law. If the Department of Revenue, that in 18 months can't come up with a number, now you're asking them to do it in 3 months, each year. They're not gonna give you 159 different numbers for 159 different counties in different geographical areas and different population growths. They're gonna give a number. Majority of the time, they're gonna base that off how well the metro's doing. So if you get a number based off the metro and then try to apply that to Madison County, Oglethorpe, Hart, or somewhere else, it may not cover that budget that you already set prior to the mill rate. And then what do? The only thing you can do is cut services. Now, we're fortunate in Madison County, I know all you cities do it. Your budgets are not fluffed. There's no fluff in them. We run a very, 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 very tight budget in Madison County. Unlike what Facebook will tell you, we don't have services that we can just whip off $150,000 or $400,000 or $1 million out from under it. We lose the kind of funds we're talking about lose, which Robin will explain these numbers in a minute. But when we start losing those kind of funds, I don't know which fire department funding you want to cut or which sheriff department you want to put on a 12-hour shift instead of a 24-hour shift. I don't know what you're going to do. But the numbers does not today, nor will they on March 1st, will add up because of the unknown that the state can't give us. And it's really sad that they cannot. But that's the struggles we face. I don't think we've stressed the importance of the Royston deal. If we opt in and they opt out, we can't collect, that 1 penny's off. We're not even going to be able to put that on a referendum now. The same as if any of you guys would have opted out.
And they just told us that, it's all for one thing with getting flossed. But like James, the chief from Paulding brought up, was no one's been able to explain to us how it works if the city falls in multiple counties.
Correct.
So we may still be able to collect it, but it's not a guarantee because no one says either way whether or not we can.
Is that what
It's not
we
written in legislation.
do need to find that out, because they're not negotiating in our laws or any of our SLOSS negotiations.
Well, they can't tell us because it's not in the code section.
It's not written in the
Well,
legislation.
they're listed in our SDS plan.
Well, even if we can collect with loss, that's not permanent.
No.
Well, now, there was a buzzword in Monday's meeting from the Department of Revenue that kept throwing around. But don't worry, you still got the SLOSS. And I wanted to say something, but ironically, out of my nature, I did not. I kept my mouth shut.
Well, he also
We don't have an opportunity. You don't just have the floss. You have an opportunity for a floss. There's a big difference in a guarantee and not.
And he brought up several good things about, there's several counties now that are in class action lawsuit because of floating homestead deals. And then you run into the issue with disabled veterans where it's retroactive back to 3 years. So not only do you got to correct that, but then you got to move the base year back supposedly 3 years. Again, code section doesn't define that, but
Yeah, so they hadn't addressed that.
it's not addressed, but assumingly you'd have to move it back 3 years in order to get the correct values. But it's really going to hurt the cities where now, because of having to put the rollback rates on the tax bills, you are going to have to get with us and get the preliminary digest figures faster so you can set your budget or set your millage rate. But we're not going to be able to give you accurate figures because if, say, the county opts out, but one of the cities opts in, eventually you're going to have taxpayers get wise to the fact of, well, I've got the county value frozen, who opted in frozen at this, but my city value has increased every year because they opted out. I'm just going to appeal it, go to the DOE, and get my city value lowered down to my county value, because why would I be on two different values? So then the figures that we're going to give you aren't going to be accurate because everybody's going to appeal it to get their frozen value to match.
And we won't be able to give values till we get CPI anyway.
That's true too.
Can I say something here?
Yes, sure.
back in, 2003, when my parents moved up here from Gwinnett County, property taxes were the reason. Gwinnett County leveraged crazy property taxes, and there was a lot of people that had a mass exodus getting out of there. So what's the plan here if people say, you know what, too much, I'm gone?
Well,
I mean, that's essentially, you're losing your tax base by playing with numbers. For what, I'm not quite sure.
you have a little bit of false hope, and the false hope is in the first year, you probably are not going to see that increase. The first year. That's going to make everybody think, well, this wasn't that bad that we opted in. But on the second year is when it really hits. And then you're in, you can't get out. You can't lobby your legislator to get you out of this. You can lobby them to get you in it, but you can't lobby them to get you out. Once you're in forever. And then it's compounded. So I asked the other day, Monday, I just want to meet the one guy in this room that come up with this idea. I would want to hear him tell me his thought process as to what made him think this was a good idea and how did he sell it to the Senate and the House. How did it pass? Because the legislators I have spoke to, this was come out Monday in the meeting. This was the last bill on the last night of voting at midnight that was presented after they had been there all day and half the night. This was the last thing they got, and they got a one-sided story of we're going to help homeowners out and save them from tax money. And they went, I'm in, let's go on. That's how much thought was put into this. Now, I'm not saying that all of our legislators done that, but they wasn't really in a position to study this, understand it, and ask the pros and cons. They were given really sort of kind of ultimatum, or we're going to be here all night. Most of them was tired and didn't understand it. The few that I have spoke with said had they known the other side of the story and how it was going to impact individual counties, they would not have voted for this. But now we're still faced with it because we have it. Unfortunately, as you heard here, there was a citizen at the Board of Education the other night that came before the Board of Education and caused some conflict when I think the chairperson of the Board of Education said, we just don't know. And he took that literally and called out the chairman saying, well, it's your job to know. What he was referring to was he don't know because the state don't know. The state has not given them directions. And again, I am trying to protect the Board of Education because I think they have been unfairly treated in this because this is not really in our hands. I mean, the part about Ipton in and out is the will of the people was manipulated. It was manipulated at the voting ballot. They saw tax exemption. They did not see the whole bill. They did not understand the whole bill. Every person, am I wrong? Every person we talked to and told them about this bill says, well, most of them said we didn't vote for it, but the ones that was honest and said we did, said I'd never done it if I known that. They just didn't know. So the will of the people, I'm not leaning this hard on that. Even though it's political suicide, I'm okay with it. I'm prepared for it. Because it is the right thing to do for us, I believe, and I'll let you go ahead and tell us why.
Well, the exercise that Gary and I ran was, we went 21, 22, 23, and 24, using 2021 as the base year, just as if we had lost from 2021. So 2022 wasn't a big hit. We were looking at probably about $2 million estimated, but that's divided between the school and the county. So it would have been about $1 million. The next year was a $5 million hit. And then in 24 would have been a $7 million hit, divided between the school and the county. And it compounds every year. And this is something that once we opt in, it's there forever. And it's going to compound every year. I've been here 15 years, and the only time I've ever seen our schedule stay static and not increase was in 2009, 10, and 11 during the state's moratorium assessed value freeze because of the market crash in 2008. The state told us your values have to be where they are right now. You can't move them. So we did. And then in 2012, when they removed those moratorium assessed values, we were able to go back and follow the market again, and our values and schedules have steadily increased every year since then. And I don't see them stopping. They're going to continue to increase every year because the market's going to be what the market's going to be. There's nothing we can do about it. So the problem I see with it is everyone thinks that people are going to be happier with a millage rate rather than a value increase. But this is going to give people both, because the CPI is going to increase their value, even if it's just 3%. You're still going to have that 3% increase. So when you have the 3% increase, and then you have a millage rate increase on top of it, the first year, they're okay. The second year, they see that 3% increase again, and they're going to start coming in. Well, you increased my value 3% last year. Why are you increasing it 3% again? And I have a millage rate increase. What are y'all trying to do to us? But that's the issue I see with opting in. Now, if the county and state, the county and cities were to decide to opt out, you still have options, because you can have a local floating homestead. You'll be able to come back and do something like that rather than relying on the state to come in and tell you how you have to run your homestead, how you have to do your homestead. You might want to do a floating homestead that has an income requirement on it, or you may want to get with the school and see if we can do senior school exemption, which may exempt all of the seniors' school tax once they reach a certain age. That would be a good option, but everything that we've run shows us that the values are going to continue to increase, which means that you're going to lose more tax revenue every year as it compounds over years. And this is something that will be here forever. I mean, 20 years from now, we'll still have that floating homestead, and we don't know what the values will be, but I don't know that a millage rate will ever keep up with it. The floss is only good for 5 years, so once that goes away, then it's all on the county. Now, I think Shane has run a different exercise that addresses how it will affect the millage rate on and Cuba. So if Shane wants to explain how he ran his exercise, it might clarify some things on Cuba.
Yeah. I actually got several handouts. I don't know if anybody wants to. I ain't got enough for everybody, but if you wanted to look over it, Hart County's a little different. I live here in Madison County. I've always been from Madison County. I just work over there. But Hart County is in a little better position than Madison County. They got a lot more industry. They got a lot more commercial base over there. They've got a lot of second homes that wouldn't qualify for this particular floating homestead on the lake. However, even with that, this bill will cause significant issues with the income and what the county would be able to do. My commissioners over there, they have operated on a shoestring budget since I've been there, and they do very good managing their money. But when we run this test, I included a couple of things that was voted in this past year. One was a personal property exemption. It was a separate bill that covers all personal property. That means if you've got a business, if you got a boat, if that personal property is $20,000 or less, it's going to be totally exempt. So it comes out of the pool, can't be taxed. I included that in this study. Your conservation use, or CUBA as they refer to it, that's been in play for years in the state of Georgia. And what that is a discounted value for people that's in agriculture, people that they're getting a discount on the value of their land. So I included that in the study. What's it going to do with that? In looking at like they did, we used 2021 as our base year and went through 2024. And, we come up with our net revenue loss. And what we're looking at is just the county, not including the school. School board's totally different, but just including the county, the first year of 2022, after we see what our loss is versus what it actually was in 2022, they would have had to increase their mill rate 6.5% just to reach the revenue they needed to operate the county. 2023, it jumped up to 16.7% to operate the county. And then for 2024, it was 20.79%. So the mill rate is going to go through the roof. There is no preventing that. And my commissioner says, well, what about this floss? Well, we've got people coming over that shop at, we got a Walmart, we've got Purina there, we've got all of this big commercial base. Even with that, it's not going to offset the loss that the school board and the county has, because that amount would have been split up amongst all the cities and the county. I run a study today. There was one city in the county that would be able to operate solely off of the floss that would have occurred, and that was the city of Bowersville. There's nothing there. There's nothing in Bowersville. Everybody else would still be having to do a millage increase. Royston was one, the city of Hartwell, but Cannon doesn't. They don't levy a mill. But and look, after we went through all this, it was really eye-opening, because just as I said, it is compounding. It will last forever. But one thing that hadn't been addressed would be a recession. A recession that I don't know. I feel like personally, within the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see some form of recession. You can't just dump all this money into the economy that has been dumped over the past 4 years and expect it, and not expect some type of market correction. So if that happens, it's going to go the other way. What is Madison County going to do? You don't have commercial, so that's out. All we've got is residential and agriculture here in this county. That sole burden is going to lay on those people. They have no choice but to raise the mill rate. Right now, they've got control over what they can and can't do. With this was basically jammed down the county's throats and said, you're either going to do it or you're going to be voted out. Take your pick. It's time that you have to look down the road, put all types of differences aside, and make a good decision, not for just an immediate, but your kids down the road. Because everybody in here that went to the polls in November amended the Constitution. Why did we amend the Constitution? Because this bill was not constitutional. And it was, he talked about talking to some of the representatives. The main representative that wrote some of this was a hodgepodge of multiple bills just thrown together there at the last minute. That was his intentions, to take the power from the counties. And to force them into doing what he wanted. I don't think it's good. Could they come up with something better? Yeah, people need tax relief. I hate paying taxes. I don't know about y'all, but I do. But the money's got to come from somewhere, and it's going to come from a mill rate. Which all these people in conservation, your agriculture, your ag producers, it's going up. They're not going to be seeing the breaks that they've been getting. Their bottom line is going to get smaller. It's going to make them hard to operate. Your residential homeowner, you know what your homeowner budget looks like right now. With inflation, it's gonna get tighter, because you're gonna have more taxes to pay based on that mill rate. So it's just something to keep in mind, going forward.
Thank you, Shane.
Yes,
I really appreciate you coming to give us the outside perspective, even though you are a county resident, it really helps.
yes.
You know, it was really eye-opening yesterday in Lincoln County, considering, you know, they are in a regional T-Splosh. I mean, they do pretty strong. They got a $3 million budget, that's it for the county. But to hear them talking to opt in, as we said in the brand-new Ag Center, that was, the second phase of it was starting in the back. I was able to summarize this up, because the T-Splosh, the regional, and all the spots that they got, not gonna cover that. And I said, you might as well stop construction the day you opt in. Economic development's now out the window. All extra added cost is now out the window. And what I asked people to do, as we left that meeting, there was a video shown about sludge dumping. And one of the county chairmen says, if we can't get the state to help us, they won't come down, they won't do this, and they won't do that. And my statement as we walked out the door was, but you're fixing to opt into something you're gonna ask the state to help you with, but they won't help you now. So unfortunately, opinions of this particular situation, empathy for your neighbor, empathy for your citizens, does not play into this. This is what I would ask you to do, is to do the math, because the truest statement in the room is math. It never lies. And in this, for instance, as these guys have shown or can show more, we're gonna be second year, up 2 meals, third year, up 3.5 meals, fourth year, up 5, 6 meals. Now we're reaching the 16, 17 meal rate. If you think it's political suicide opting out at the beginning, you can only imagine the political suicide is going to be 4 years from now, when you have increased that millage rate every single year. Now, the point of this meeting was not just to inform the citizens, but to try to help inform the public, because honestly, they don't understand this. And not because of the way they voted, one way or the other, it's because they don't understand what's at risk and what could come if we make the wrong choice.
One thing, I've got a pretty large POA there in Hart County. And one common thing that's been said to me from the Property Owners Association has been, well, it's gonna freeze my value, my taxes are not gonna go up. That's not the case. Their taxes are gonna go up more with a frozen value, because just like Robin alluded to, it's not only gonna be a mill rate increase, but if the CPI comes in from Department of Revenue, say 4.5%, they're gonna get a 4.5% plus an increase on that mill rate. And at the end of the day, they'll be paying more taxes than they were to start with. But that's quite common, but they just read that part about freezing their value. And they didn't read the bill. And that's something that's common to misunderstand. Your value may be frozen to a point, but your taxes are not.
Right now, they're sitting on one of the lowest mill rates in the state of Georgia too, right?
Yeah, our total mill rate, school and county, is just 14 mills.
School and county.
School and county is just 14 mills. And, like I said, they do a great job with a shoestring budget. But it's gonna hit them hard, you know.
One of the misconceptions that was flying around before this, before everyone actually went and voted on, allowing it, I think I saw 3 different articles that claimed that this freezes the millage rate and that we won't be able to raise those. It doesn't, but people don't understand that. So they think that this locks their taxes in, and they won't go up at all. So public, is definitely.
And for the record, what Mr. Hicks just said about Hart County school and county taxes being 14, I know somebody at home is going to either read the article in the paper or watch on video, and they're going to say, wait a minute, why is ours 25 in a combination? there's a big difference between Hart County and Madison County. Their economic development over there, their downtown, the city of Hartwell, the lake, the houses around the lake, there's a big difference, because your budget in Hart County is what?
No,
It's okay. But anyway, I just don't want anybody to start saying, wait a minute, apples to apples, we're getting already took advantage of, because that's not the case.
No, it's not at all.
If it was, we'd all move to Hart County, just to be honest.
Derek, have you had an indication that maybe Clark County was opting in?
I was just texting a minute ago. It's my understanding the school board is opting out.
Yeah,
The government, the local government has not made a decision yet. They have a retreat next week, but all indication says that they will probably retain it and put the burden of proof on their non-resident entities.
Yeah.
So it did come out Monday, and again, it's speculation, Monday, that Hall County was opting out.
And Fulton.
And Fulton, potentially. Now, if you listen to the speaker from Paulding County, which we did, he didn't give any indication of opting in, because he was pretty negative about the whole thing, and that's Paulding County. But it really struck something with me, is that if it's true that Hall County opts out with all the chicken industry, if they can't for some reason survive, I don't know how. I've said this for months. 120 Georgia counties suffers the fate of at some point folding up or taxing themselves out of population, because that's what happens.
Well, and when I talked to the chief from Franklin County, and their county's a lot more comparable to ours, except for they actually get a lot more SPOS because of 85.
Yeah.
He said that they ran the numbers, and even with 85 there, even if SPOS passed, they wouldn't be able to do it. And especially some cities like Colbert, I don't know where Colbert is.
Right here.
Y'all already have the local homestead. This would just.
Yeah, this is in addition to the current homestead.
It would be in addition to, y'all have to raise y'all's millage rate so high, every business y'all do have in the city would run out.
And I do want to say, I don't ever want to try to put us in a Clark County pool, because very little comes out of the Clark County government that really goes right. They're in a situation to where the majority of Clark County doesn't really pay tax because of the school makeup of that, and the school being tax exempt. So they already rely a lot on the industry side that they do have. But their board out there is a flip of a coin from chaos on any given day, just to be honest. I wish them the best, but I don't want to compare what Clark County is going to do to Madison County, because we are completely apples to grapes at that point, not even oranges. I think looking at the rural counties, as ACCG told me on the phone today, this is ironic. So if everybody will remember, 2 years ago, 119 Georgia counties did not, what's the? Pass the ratio test. All of a sudden, Madison County's always been in compliance, but 2 years ago, 119 of us was disqualified in the state of Georgia by the Department of Revenue. And we lost Department of Audit.
Yes.
Saying we didn't tax enough. So it let all the utilities skip scot-free on having to pay that. We lost a ton of money. We all did. But then just 2 years later, we come up with this bill saying that we're giving them a break because they're paying too much. Now, which is it? It's the same group of people, inevitably. They sit around the same table and eat lunch. So it's really hard for me to buy into the fact that we're overcharging, so you're trying to help me when you just cost us millions by taking it away, saying we're undervalued. So today on the phone with ACCG, I asked for the hard number. And the hard number was, if you're not a 38 or above, you're going to lose your shirt, is what they said. If you're 37, 36, 35%, you're doomed. Again, that disqualifies about my 118 number on counties of Georgia. That's tough. 2 years ago, it was 119 counties. So none of this makes sense. We asked, there was me and four others has preached for a year at ACCG asking those hard questions. Why can't we pump the brakes for 12 months to give the Department of Revenue an opportunity to come up with a solution? And they said, that's not an option. You got till March 1st, get busy. And we have been.
Also with this bill, it changes the way that counties are audited as well.
They did away with that.
Do what?
They did away with that, what you were talking. Department of Audits isn't auditing us that same way anymore.
Yeah.
But they got another way.
Yeah. It's always gonna be their benefit.
We just, within the past year or so, I don't know about you guys, but, I learned the game that they were playing and figured, played the game with them and was able to get my ratio within range. Now they're flipping the script, so I gotta learn a new ball game.
Well, you gotta, I ain't gonna go into conspiracies, but, we're in a tough day. It's tough for the people, it's gonna be tough for everybody. The toughest part's gonna be trying to help the citizens understand why we may or may not do what we think's best for them, because they're not gonna understand that. They're gonna think that we're just a big old government, and really we're the small government trying to protect us from the big government at this point.
Is there a resource for that we can share with people to help them understand it? I don't want to say dumbed down, but.
No.
Well, you can go to GAAO, and there's a presentation, a slideshow on there from, Kenny Colson.
Oh, okay.
It's listed there,
Where was that again?
GAAO. And I think it's GAAO.org you could go to.
That's different than the one that you sent me.
No,
Yeah, read that.
probably would be, because that's the first time I've heard that.
Georgia Association of Investigations.
We seen it down there
Monday.
on Monday, yeah. And, it's quite detailed. It kind of walks you through the entire bill, step by step, in plain English, instead of what you're gonna read in the actual bill
The
itself.
problem that we're having, so I'm pretty clear on the bill, I've about read Todd and that's what it so far. But I don't know how to break it down to help people understand it when they don't understand how their taxes are calculated to begin with.
Correct. So that's what when I said no a minute ago, that's what I was referring to help educate the public. First, you gotta understand taxation. And if you don't understand watching the video may help you, but if they don't have a clue about taxation, they're not gonna understand the video that they're gonna watch. In real terms, if there was a plus to this, we would have heard about it by now, of any sort. ACCG has not come forward with one. They come forward with rules. This is what you must follow, and this is why. The Department of Revenue has come forward with rules. This is what you must do. But nobody's come to it of how it really works with boots on the ground for these two guys. And this is a chief appraiser and deputy appraiser and that whole staff, in every county's worst nightmare is to be able to formulate how this is actually going to work. Now, the companies that we have to do the billing, they can get the software to compute it, but we still have to do the legwork to turn it in. And that's going to be really hard because yesterday, those couple, at least one that we heard from, they didn't understand it for their county. And I'm like, oh Lord.
And I think the farmers are actually gonna get hit a lot harder than they think too, because there's not a cap on the acreage with this, not currently. They're talking about putting one, but it would be not for another year or so at least.
Mhm.
So if you did happen to have your house on, 200 acres and was getting conservation, you're not actually getting the freeze because your CUBA value is still gonna go up to 3% from every year from the state. They're gonna send us those new values. Your CUBA's gonna go up 3%. You're also gonna get the CPI increase, which is gonna be another 3 or 5% or whatever they said to that. And you're also gonna get hit with the millage rate increase because of all the loss in revenue. So they're actually gonna get hit even harder than if you didn't opt in.
So it'll be our duty, if the Board of Commissioners and you guys, mayors, agree to opt out, it'll be our duty to educate the public. I was asked today to come back down to South Georgia and talk to their Board of Commissioners. I don't feel real comfortable about it, at least until I know how my vote's gonna go. The last thing I wanna do is go down and try to explain it to them and then turn around my board and do something different, and then I'm looking like a bad guy if they went. So I really am hesitant about that. I prefer it to be Shane or Robin, but that's the hardest part, man, is explaining to people why we're doing it and what we're trying to save them. One of the things that also was said Monday, golly, I'm sorry, I just lost it. It pertained to what you were talking about. Oh, ACCG, that's what it was. So there's about 5 amendments to this bill that ACCG has, and they're gonna present it in the up-and-coming legislation. One of them is gonna be, right now, we don't know if 700 acres is exempt or 1. They ain't set, but they're talking, the change that was recommended by the ACCG board members was a house and 5 acres would be what the freeze would be for. It's really not a freeze, but that's what the exemption would be for, the flood homestead exemption. But the other acreage would not. It'll be subject to whatever mill rate is gonna happen. But your house is too, inevitably. But there was 4 more, and I don't remember them off the top of my head, and it wasn't mentioned Monday because the only reason Dante acknowledged that, because that question was asked, and that's what me and ACCG was on the phone about today, was there's 4 more amendments to it. But they don't know if those are gonna pass. There's a whole bunch of we don't knows, and we ain't sures, and we don't know what's gonna happen out there. And that's a massive gamble for government.
Robin, how long have you been in this business?
Since 1988.
Since 1980. I've been doing it for 20 years, so not quite as long as you have. But never in my time, and I don't know about yours, has there been a bill passed and it's not get any type of direction from the Department of Revenue, or get rules and regs that, in advance or something like that. I've never seen anything like the way this bill has been handled. The Department of Revenue has been strictly really hands-off. In fact, they didn't even want to do any type of road shows to give any type of explanation on it this year, on this bill. And, I think the new director said we're gonna do at least 1 or 2. But they, like you said, they don't know. If the Department of Revenue attorneys don't know how to implement and write the rules and regs to the bill, why are we doing it? And I've been really cautious about that, and, I don't think it's something that you should rush into, especially as poorly written as it's been. The bill is written.
Well, a lot of the help from the Department of Revenue went away when the quarter meal went away, because the state doesn't collect the quarter meal anymore from the counties.
Yeah.
So they don't have really any skin in the game.
Not a dog in the fight.
No.
Most of y'all's people that you talk to, you see them. What's the consensus? I mean, I know you got a lot of confusion out there, people voting, just like you said, thinking that the mill rate is gonna freeze or something else. But then the people you talk to, what's the consensus? What do they talk to you about?
That they haven't got a clue what any of it means.
It's all about like booze on the board, right?
I sitting here listening to y'all, reading everything I've read, but I still don't understand what y'all talking
But here's the thing.
I do need it dumbed down.
Here's the thing. There's no way.
And you're a smart guy. It's just a bad part.
There's no way, either way you go, that you come out of this without a lot of controversy. Okay, you do. If you give the people what they want, in 3 years, they're gonna just chew the world up. If you don't give them what they want, they're gonna chew you up. Right now, what I suggested in that meeting yesterday was post your notice, like you opted out, have 3 public hearings. and use those public hearings to gauge the will of the people, talk to them, educate them, do what you have to. Now, you run the risk of having the same 40 people that show up at every meeting you have to raise hell coming in and nobody else. But the simple fact of the matter is, we got way more government than we deserve to have or need to have. And this is people up the road 70 miles reaching into us and telling us what's best for us. And that's a sort of a tough pill to swallow, but it is voted in, and the people voted in. So we don't have a whole lot of time to work on to figure out what we're gonna do.
To be fair, the people didn't know what they were voting in, because they didn't even reference this bill on
Well,
ballot.
the bill was simply an effort to take the estimation of taxes off of the tax bill. That's all it was.
That's what it started as.
That was it. That was just one little bitty thing right there. And that is a confusing thing. But now, from a personal standpoint, I've been explaining to the same 150 people every year that ain't worth a flip right there, just to look at your value. If your value's not where you want to go talk to Robin. It was simple. It's never gonna be that way again. Because of Royston City opting out, it hamstrings every one of y'all on the plots. Okay? And that's 3 parcels up there, 1 car. 3 parcels and 1 car. That's what we generate from. You know?
There's the same situation up at Pine Mountain. There's one city that's got 3 counties in it. And it was brought up in our NACCG meeting, how that's gonna work, because 2 of them said way before anybody else, we ain't getting in this mess. And 1 of them wanted in. Well, they just happened to have a bigger portion of the city. So that's gonna end up being legal battle. This is where this is going. That's going to court. Don't know how it's gonna fall yet. I'll tell you a little bit of backstory where this came from originally. ACCG listened to county governments. And I think I was one of the 5 or 6 that wanted the estimated taxes removed from the tax bills because it caused mass chaos. And everybody agreed that those initiated bills that goes out, it's not bills, estimates, confuse people. And it caused a lot of feedback, a lot of complaints, a lot of arguments. Didn't need to happen. So that's where this actually started. So that finally passes ACCG, and then it goes on to the Capitol and says, hey, the wishes of the people is to remove this from this bill. And I said, okay, we'll remove it, and this is what we get to replace it. But if you know the story about why you even had that estimated tax, that was a trade-off again between 2 guys at the Capitol that was arguing. Mm-hmm. One wanted something done, and the other one didn't want it, so they met in the middle and says, if I give in to you, I want this done. And that's how the estimated tax came to be on your bill, between 2 people. Fine.
Yeah, on the assessment notice.
On the assessment notice.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, there's one thing I wanted to just mention to all the cities, and I'm gonna email this out tomorrow, but if you do decide to opt out, you have to hold 3 public hearings. You have to run a legal ad in the paper 1 week, so 7 days before you hold that meeting. And there's the verbiage that goes with that. You also have to run simultaneously with a press release and there's, other legal requirements. So the Board of Commissioners, ours will publish, they'll be sent to the newspaper tomorrow to be published. And I've got those dates. We've spaced them all out on different days. You have to legally hold one between 6 and 7 p.m. So there's 5 or 6 guidelines on opting out, but that may be something that you need to. And that was what I had asked the board at the beginning of January, if I could have the permission just to run the ad, so that way that they had that option by the time we learned more information and talked with all of you guys on what y'all want to do, so they'd have that ability to do so.
And add to that, there is a breakdown sheet from ACCG that shows you the requirements about running that ad. That ad has to be a 30 square inch ad, not 29.5. And they even talked about that Monday where somebody said, well, 5 by 6 equals 30. And no, it don't. So
Look at the 4x7.
Yeah, 4x7, yeah. 6x5 did.
Yeah.
They're real sticklers on that house, on that side. They will look at
It's
it.
no different than you tax
Right.
digest stuff, it's the same. Only difference is, if you chose to, which you don't wanna do that, you could have all three of these meetings in the same day.
And I've spoken to Vicky at Main Street News. She called me the other week after me and you had talked, and she understands, and because me and Jacob had some conversation on something else that was about 581, so she called me, and she's like, is this your public hearing? We gotta do this, this, and this. And I told her, I said, no, because she was asking about this meeting tonight. And I said, no, this is just our regular just call meeting. So she's aware there too.
There is a deadline as well.
Yes, so if you opt out, you have to vote, and there's a resolution in the packet that I'll send you tomorrow, and it has to be voted on, approved, and sent to the Secretary of State by March the 1st.
In the office.
It has to be in the office. And just to be honest, we've been told it may be wise, I know for the county-wise, it may be wise for us to hand deliver it and take a picture with the date on it when we hand deliver it.
Oh.
Postal Service is not very accurate.
I went to Atlanta and picked the governor's check up on the exemption last.
Yeah. I received a notice, a bill today that was dated December 21st. I just got it today from the Postal Service. So do not rely on sending this by mail. There is some speculation that may be fraudulent. I don't know, but that's the reason they say take a picture to verify the day you were there or when you handled it, if you have to get to that point. I was told also today by ACCG, and I haven't heard this before, was your local representatives may be able to opt you in even if you opt out.
They mentioned that yesterday. If you opt out, you can go back if your local representatives will agree with it, and you would be able to probably opt back in. Now, that's not written into anything either. And when I said that a while ago about Royston opting out, sort of freezes y'all, that would be if there's nothing wrote into the bill or into an amendment, then that would be probably something that would settle favorably for the majority in a lawsuit.
I mean, the way it's written now,
That's right.
it would automatically
That's
take
right.
us out.
It
but
takes it out,
if we
but
make an amendment to it, then.
because it's a fractional, we have a fractional piece of Royston, and there's 3 parcels.
When you say local representatives, who are you referring to?
Talking about Alan Powell and Robert Everett and Frank.
Oh.
But now what we were told, what I was told today was not the opt-in, if you opt out not to get back in. I was told if you opt out, they may be able to put you back in.
If you don't do it, you don't.
Because there's talk in the Capitol of a few of the representatives that wants this to pass pretty strongly for some ungodly reason, that they're gonna try to override the Board of Commissioners and force everybody.
Now,
And that particular representative that had this conversation with ACCG was warned, I wouldn't try that because you're gonna create chaos among counties against the state if you try to mandatory opt them in.
a friend of the Department of Revenue gave myself and Shane a heads up that there was something else coming from the Department of Revenue. But she didn't get into any specifics or anything like that, plus or minus, the
So you're saying if the counties and cities opt in, the state can still go back and change the bill?
Well, I mean, they're talking, like Todd said, they're talking about doing amendments to it already. ACCG is submitting at least 5, maybe more. That, I mean, the way they literally passed this the last day in session at like midnight. So there's probably going to be several amendments that come to it later on. They add and change once they realize how screwy this is.
They knew when they did this bill that counties were gonna lose money right off the rip. They knew they would because that's why they put the
the option then for the schools to opt out without it affecting anybody else. They knew that the counties and schools would lose money from the start, and it was a bad deal.
So you said earlier, you can opt in, you can have all three of your meetings in one day.
Yeah, you don't wanna really do that, but.
No, I'm asking.
You can have two in one day.
You can have,
No, you can have all three in
Kenny
one.
said you
But
could have all
the
three.
mandatory one must be between 6 and 7.
That's right, you have to have
That's
a night.
not mandatory time.
but if you opt out,
Yes,
you gotta spread them out.
No, it's the same.
Oh, okay.
Either way. If you-
That's what I wanted cleared up. I
But
thought
you
you said if you
won't
opt
wanna do
in.
that.
No, I'm not saying I want to.
We'll send y'all a copy of this, Christine. We'll try to send a copy of this, because it explains all that and the times.
Yeah.
But the first I heard was Monday, that you could hold all three meetings in one day. I was always told that they had to be spaced out to give people an
Oh, they
opportunity.
need to.
That
They
is
need-
permission to watch there. I've heard it wrong.
Yeah.
Who told me?
You ought to work with both of these, they're hilarious. I know Lamar's got another meeting to go to, and I know Christina's got a meeting to go to. I'll hang around if there's any questions.
I wanted to address what Lamar said.
Yeah.
Because with all due respect, all of you officials, and I am a city council, so,
That's right,
that's the perspective of government.
that's right.
And so I think you're overlooking the reason that people overwhelmingly voted for it is they're fed up with runaway taxes.
That's right. And for 2 years, they're gonna be.
And, well, were you saying that not changing anything would be better? Well, my bill went up 49% in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that happens with this will not come close to that 49% unless you guys spend more money.
Yeah.
So that's my, and people I talk with, is that's the main reason they wanted to catch the attention of city officials and county officials. It's like, the money's gotta come from somewhere, you're not printing it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a penny tax or a property tax.
If it went up 49%, I'll have to let Robin answer this question. If it went up 49%, something's probably wrong.
No, because it's that runaway, housing market.
Correct.
So
it's not county government though.
No, but that's what I have to play off of. You guys did the right thing by rolling back the millage rate, but some people don't do that.
Yeah.
The school board didn't do it. I went and appealed to them because I represent retirees. You know, you want a fixed income. You can't have extravagant increases year after year. You can't. So when they say they want to cap whatever increases to whatever the inflation rate, hell, that's better than going up 49% in 1 year.
Well, your value may not go up 49%, but that doesn't mean the millage rate's not gonna go up.
Oh, that's right. They have control of that.
Yeah, so what Shane was referring to a minute ago, even if we opt in, like I sort of think I hear you say, it might be a good idea to opt in. You missed the part where he said, even if you opt in, you're gonna raise the millage rate, and then they're gonna raise the CPI.
You don't if you would cut.
No, there won't be no cut.
You're saying less money's coming in. Where do you think that less
Correct.
money is going? It's going back to the taxpayer.
No,
No,
you missed
no,
that
it's
part.
not gonna be less money coming in. What's
It
gonna
would
happen-
be less money if you got a lower.
Your value will stay low, but they're still gonna need money
You
to
put me
operate.
on the county commissioner, and I'll show you where you can cut.
I tell you what I'll do. I got a budget in there, got 1,800 line items. I'll print it off for you, send it home with you. It's got a 5-year history on it, and if you could find me something to cut,
I can show you. People might be irate, and it'd be the same 40 people you're talking about, but it would be on the other side.
just let's hear me.
Now.
It would be on the other side.
Did the Board of Education, we met with the superintendent early on in this deal right here, and they are not opposed to a homestead, a school tax exemption. But right now, it would be age-based, income-based, possibly, I think along the lines of the age 70 and over, I got voted in a few years ago. But this is the first time they've ever been amenable to any.
And it's forced their hand, because they see that people are freaking upset.
Well,
Respectively, the conversation is taking place right now, needs to take place in public hearings, and not in an informative session like this is supposed to be.
But he asked for an opinion of what people are
That's right.
discussing.
And that's a good point. But I've got to go to another meeting. As far as the cities and whatever you need to do for the rollback stuff and all like that, we will figure it out together. It's not really that much more complicated on that side of it. As tax commissioner, whichever way the cities decide or the county decides or anything like that, my job's still pretty cut and dry.
Just collect.
I just collect.
And you still get your
Jimmy, you had a
check. And you still get your paycheck.
I will, and I earn every dime.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak on behalf of the city of Como. Financially, this bill doesn't work for the budget of the city of Como. I don't see how it could work for the county. Maybe you can figure out how it would, but I don't see it how. Just like Jim was said about Hartsville, there's more industry, there's more commercial property. They're a little bit better shape in this. But when you tell me that Clark County and Hall County possibly gonna opt out of this, then who in the world could this benefit with the commercial, and like you say, a commercial industrial tax base that they do have? There can't be 10% of the cities in the state of Georgia that this would benefit. How could we get to this extreme, you know?
Well, there's one thing we haven't talked about, and if you need to leave, go ahead.
Okay.
See, Christina, if you need
Hey,
to
I
leave, go
appreciate
ahead.
it, y'all.
We'll let Lacey take the minutes from here. But, so, everybody's heard for several years since this inflationary rates happened about affordable living, affordable homes. All right? Here's what happens to the rental property industry. It disappears. Because the people that own rental properties, the tax rate that they're gonna be at, because there is no homestead exemption on rental properties, is only gonna dwindle down to the renters. And when the rent goes from already an astronomical price, single wide trailers are roughly $1,200, gonna go to $1,400-1,500 a month, because you know they'll take advantage of it and blame it on us. That's what's gonna happen. The only way that some counties will manage is if they have a very high growth rate. If we run potentially, and me and Robin and Lamar's talked about this, and Gary, and I'm sure y'all have too, by deterring the industry, you're gonna become a bigger bedroom community than you've ever been, because people are gonna flock here until that mill rate comes up, and then they're gonna say, wait a minute, we shouldn't have moved here. Now it's back up here where we just left from. But they're coming. And the scenario of, I used this yesterday, and Shane and Gary both, or anybody help me out with this. 2 people buy a house on the same day, same square footage, same land, same 1 acre. They both stay in them 10 years. The guy that's been there 10 years, one of them decides to sell. His home tax, his taxes may be, let's just say $2,000 a year. But the guy that bought the new house, his tax bill is gonna be 10 times what the guy that's been there 10 years, even though they both was built at the same time. And he's gonna say, why is my tax bill to that home identical to mine? Why is my tax bill 10 times more than his? That's because you come into new rate. You don't have that 10 years worth of homestead built up like he did. You're gonna get the blunt of it up front, which is gonna deter people from buying said house for sale. Real estate agents that when they sell a house, they tell you, okay, this is the upkeep from last year, this is normally what the power bill runs on this particular home I'm showing, and this is what the taxes were last year. That's out the window now, because you just went into a new tax bracket. It don't matter that the guy's been here 10 years and he worked his way down to a low tax, because the new guy's gonna pay it all. And if you can say that's okay, that's fine. But you can imagine what it's gonna do to your housing market. On one side, it's gonna drive it up, it's gonna drive your rental properties completely out.
So just to be clear, what you're saying right now has nothing to do with the floating homestead exemption. So this was already
No.
the case before?
No.
I mean, I purchased the property and the property taxes were $800, but when I told the previous homeowner, but whenever I had it, it was $1,400.
Probably. I don't know.
And that was
why.
before,
Then that means you bought it at a higher price than what he bought.
I did not. I did not. Well,
There's gotta be a mathematical
When
reason
you buy from an
for
older
it.
person,
I did.
that's why. They were getting a senior citizens homestead, which cuts their taxes significantly. Anybody 65 or older.
But if it's that far off, obviously there's a mathematical reason.
So,
It was appraised, I bought it for $100,000. It was appraised the next year for $250,000 in 1 year. And this was before we were talking about floating homestead, this whole deal.
What'd you pay for it?
just 100.
100.
You paid $100 for it, and it went to $250?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
price.
next year.
So,
I mean, the bigger picture is, I think with floating homestead, is that it was supposed to be a solution for our already increasing property taxes.
it's not.
It is not, right? Even though it has a great name, it is not the solution. Even though our property taxes were already increasing before, we appreciate the offer for the House bill, but it's not the solution for what we need.
I mean, that's you guys.
We can talk later, yeah.
So I got a question for you guys right quick, and I meant to ask this. So in that 3-year lock, or that lock, if it locks, and the market crashes, say we're in 06 talking about voting this in, or opting in, and then 08 hits, those people that would have normally seen a decline in value are still up here, correct? So now they're gonna say, well, wait a minute, we're in a recession, and how is my bill still this high? I say, well, because you opted in.
I actually.
And now you're
did some
stuck.
reading on that yesterday. The way the legislation's written, it goes with the lower. That's the way the legislation is written. So let's say we do hit a 08. Your values drop out, which is only gonna hurt the county more. But the assessed value will have to go with whatever is the lowest.
Okay.
That
Which would be the base year,
No, it can go below that. It's either the base or whichever's lower, is how it's
through
written.
the schedules.
Yeah. So it will drop to whatever, let's say you need to drop it, everything 10% below base year, it will go down. This is the way Wind Gap's gonna work. Our system will work. It will go down.
Is that written in the legislation?
About Wind Gap or?
No.
Yeah, yes, in the legislation. Me and Missy and I was going over that yesterday. And she's the one that actually found it, so.
Okay. 'Cause I know Monday, the guy from Pickens County said they weren't sure if they were just going to apply the CPI to that.
Yeah.
I got a question about CPI. So, I'm familiar with the municipal cost index, but are they saying that the CPI is gonna be decided by the state tax commissioner?
I think it's gonna be decided by federal.
Because that's a Department of Labor index number. Okay.
Now, it's true what you just said. If we hit that law, you may have a year where you go up 4 mills instead of 2, because you gotta make up for that law. The baseline number, if you take all the fat off the bone, there's no surplus, not even a penny, it's still gotta be maintained somehow. So, if you hit that law, you could see a drastic increase even during a recession. And I guess the bottom line boils down to this, on the in and out, it's this: do you want local control of how you do your taxation, or do you want to let the state do it? That's really the bottom line for this whole thing. What do you want to give up?
Well, it sounds like you still have some control, because if you're allowed to raise your mill rate, however you willy-nilly feel like doing it,
Correct.
then you still got control of it.
But you're giving them the opportunity to cut you, so it forces you to raise the millage.
Right. But either way, so,
It's just a blanket
let me get this,
state level
let me get this straight, so if we have a 2008 again, are you froze at the higher rate, or does it come down? Because there seems to be confusion about this.
Well, according to the way it's written in the legislation, it's gonna go with whichever's lower. If your base year is higher than the appraised or the assessed value for that particular year, it's gonna go with the lower value.
So we get 5 years into this, and we've got a base year. Now we hit a 2008, and we go below the base year. We're gonna start taxing the homes at this new, where we're bottoming out at in home prices.
Right.
and then the mill rate goes this way.
Because they won't put anything.
Yeah, but your recovery period will take longer because now you're capped at the legislation of is it the assessed value or the CPI value.
Well,
So
no,
if it drops out 10%,
It doesn't reset that base year. The base year is what the base year is, which would be 24 values. Even if it does drop below that, your base year is still there, it's still gonna be part of the,
So when it comes back up,
yeah,
it'll be still be at the 24 base year.
right.
But historically, it's not gonna, you may have the bottom drop out, but you're not gonna have it rebound completely in
Immediately.
1 year.
Not
No.
in 1 year, no.
That
No.
Robin, what's the law say, and I don't remember, I've read it, but I can't recall it. What's it talk about? So for example, I got 2,000 square foot house, and I get this, we're in, I go add another 2,000 square feet. People don't understand, I mean, somewhere there's a percentage or improvement value that says, wait a minute, you kind of flipped the script, and your baseline is gonna change.
Right.
So
Because
somebody can't just kind of trick.
any improvement to the property, let's say you have an addition on the house, that's added to the base year value.
Sure.
So now that becomes your base year value.
At the time it is constructed.
Mm-hmm.
Or improve upon.
Yeah, the improvement construction.
Right.
Because it takes you to the new one. Have we been able to at least try to help everybody understand at least their options as to how this can or could go, either way?
Okay.
Well, that was the intent of today's meeting, and it's also the intent of this meeting to make sure everybody's aware of the deadlines they have in front of them, and what needs to be met if you choose to opt out. The only city that this will not apply to is Hull, because if you don't levy a tax, you don't have to opt out. Am I correct? I think that's right.
I'm not sure on that. That's my understanding.
Now, I know you're not eligible for floss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you may still have to opt out, I'm sorry. But we'll look on this, we'll send this.
What did you say, Cannon? They don't levy a mill?
No, Canada don't levy a mill.
Would they be involved in this on your side, on that?
Yeah, I believe any type of municipality and, would have to notify, whether, either way.
I mean, I'm thinking that they're going to because Hull collects lost dollars.
Yeah.
So if we were gonna opt in and do floss, Hull would also have to be a part, they'd have to turn in a resolution.
They clearly said if you are not eligible for floss unless you levy a mill, because the city of Elberton does not levy any property tax, so they're not eligible for floss. That's why they were like, we don't really care what you do, because we don't have any opportunity to levy.
So what happens if they don't opt out and years down the road, they start letting them know? Are they automatically in them?
To the flossy, yeah.
Or into the, floating?
The floating homestead?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, that's another unknown question.
They don't have it on this particular sheet, but I'm almost positive you're not eligible for floss if you do not levy a mill. Levy a tax. Sorry. Again, I'm here for any more questions. I know some of you got to go, I understand completely, but thank you for attending. I hope we've been able to give you any information. You have all of our emails. Please email us if you like. For any further questions, if you sleep on tonight, come up with one. Yes, sir.
We are an official meeting, so I move to adjourn.
All right. I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Chandler. Unanimous, gentlemen? Around the table? Yep. All right.
All in favor, go home.
All right.
So, we all did. We're held at. Right, we can.
Whatever they think.
Okay, but we're locked in, right?